Hi everyone. In this video I just want to pay tribute to a Portuguese cinematographer, Eduardo Serra, who has just recently passed away on August 19th, 2025 at the age of 81. Now I must admit Eduardo Serra's name didn't immediately ring any bells to me, but then I looked at his filmography and realised the number of films that I have seen of his, but also just looking through the filmography it just really fascinated me in terms of how varied his career has been and the people that he has worked with. This is a cinematographer who has worked with two very influential French directors. He's worked with a New Zealand director who interests me. He had a 3-year period of working with British directors, and then he's also done some Hollywood films as well, so a real mixture to his career. One of his early films, and it's a film I have not seen, is a documentary feature that came out in 1983 called Des terroristes à la retraite. And this was a documentary about 200 French resistance fighters in Paris who were rounded up by the Gestapo and shot during World War II. And it's a documentary that's narrated by Simone Signoret. But soon after that, it seems that he developed a bit of a working relationship with the French director Patrice Leconte. And it's actually the second film that he did with Patrice Leconte, which I think came to international audiences' attention. And it was a film I saw as well. And that was The Hairdresser's Husband in 1990. He'd actually worked with Patrice Leconte earlier on a film called Les Spécialistes. And in fact, over his career, he's worked with Patrice Leconte 9 times. His very final film was actually a film for Patrice Leconte in 2013 called A Promise, which actually had an American-British cast there with Rebecca Hall, Alan Rickman and Richard Madden. Now, for me, when it comes to the films of Patrice Leconte, yes, I saw The Hairdresser's Husband, and the only other one of Patrice Leconte's that I've seen so far is Monsieur Ear. I really like that film, but that did not have cinematography by Eduardo Serra. But the films that Eduardo did work on with Patrice Leconte, I'll just read those out to you. They are, in 1993, Tango, which starred Philippe Noiret. In 1994, Le Parfum Divin with Jean-Pierre Marais. In 1996, Les Grands Ducs with Jean-Pierre Marais, Philippe Noiret and Jean Rochefort. And in 2000, a film I do have, but I haven't watched it yet, The Widow of Saint-Pierre. This one stars Juliette Binoche, Danilo Toy, and the Serbian director Emir Kusturica, famous for directing Underground and Black Cat, White Cat. In 2002, he worked with Patrice Leconte on Love Street. And 2004, Confidence trop intime with the great Sandrine Bonnaire. But the other great French director that he got involved with was Claude Chabrol, and he worked on his late career films from 1997 onwards. In fact, he worked on Claude Chabrol's final film, Bellamy, in 2009, which starred Gérard Depardieu. For me, when it comes to Claude Chabrol, the very first film of his that I saw was the 1970 film Le Boucher, starring Stéphane Audran, a great movie that. But yeah, when it comes to the films of Claude Chabrol that Eduardo Serra worked on, then they include 1997, The Swindle with Isabelle Huppert. 1999, Au cœur de mensonge with Sandrine Bonnaire. 2003, The Flower of Evil with Natalie Bay. 2004, La Demoiselle d'Honneur, which is based on a Ruth Rendell novel. 2006, A Comedy of Power, again with Isabelle Huppert. 2007, A Girl Cut in Two. And then, like I say, that final one, Bellamy, in 2009, starring Gérard Depardieu. Okay, so those were the French directors that he worked with, but then he also worked, like I say, with a New Zealand director that interested me, and that was Vincent Ward. Now, Vincent Ward's first film was a really interesting one, The Navigator, A Medieval Odyssey. He didn't work on that one, but he did work on 1992's Map of the Human Heart. Now, this is a film I quite like, and it does have some really beautiful visual moments in it. And this is a film that stars Patrick Bergin, an actor I like from the film Mountains of the Moon, and Pario, who was in La Femme Nikita, and also Jason Scott Lee, who was in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. But yeah, this is a really likeable film, definitely worth seeing if you get the chance. And then the other Vincent Ward film that he worked on is definitely known for its visual style, and it's this one which came out in 1998, What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. So yeah, this is a sort of journey into the afterlife, if you like, but yeah, some absolutely incredible imagery on this, even if the film itself perhaps doesn't really work overall, but it is definitely visually interesting. And indeed, Roger Ebert calls it here one of the great visual achievements in film history. And then also, like I say, there seems to be this strange period in the middle of the 90s where he worked with some British directors, and the first one being Peter Chelsom on this film Funny Bones, which starred Jerry Lewis, Britain's own comic Lee Evans, Leslie Caron, Oliver Reed, and Oliver Platt. So Peter Chelsom, a director I really like, especially from the film Hear My Song. So yeah, that's an interesting collaboration. But then Eduardo Serra also worked with director Michael Winterbottom, who has done all the Trip movies starring Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon. But yeah, he worked with him in 1996 on the film Jude, which starred Christopher Eccleston and Kate Winslet. And then again in 1996, he worked with a female British director, Sue Clayton, on a film called The Disappearance of Finbar. I don't know that one. And then in 1997, he worked with the director Ian Softley, the director of films such as Backbeat and Hackers. And that was on The Wings of the Dove, which is an adaptation of a Henry James novel, and it starred Helena Bonham Carter and Linus Roach. And he got an Oscar nomination for his cinematography on that one. Okay, so French directors, British directors, a New Zealand director. But yeah, Eduardo Serra also worked with a number of Hollywood directors as well. So he worked twice with director Edward Zwick. Edward Zwick, perhaps best known for directing movies such as Glory and The Last Samurai. But yeah, he worked with Edward Zwick on Blood Diamond, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Jimon Hinsu. And he also did this one, Defiance, which starred Daniel Craig. And then in 2003, he also worked on the film The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which starred Scarlett Johansson and Colin Firth, and was very much about the life of the painter Vermeer. So an interesting film. I haven't seen it, I have to admit, but one in which he had to recreate some of the lighting style that would be used in Vermeer paintings, and he did get an Oscar nomination for his work on that film. And in 2004, he also worked with Kevin Spacey, who acted in and directed this film Beyond the Sea, about the life of the crooner Bobby Darin. And then probably his biggest Hollywood achievement was working on a couple of the Harry Potter films. And in fact, it was the final two Harry Potter films, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1 and Part 2, which came out in 2010 and 2011. So yeah, the quite dark side of Harry Potter. So Eduardo Serra was cinematographer on those films. But let's end by looking at one film that he worked on, which I have a feeling is a film that most people will respond to and have in their collections, and that is this one. It is Unbreakable, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. So probably to date, still the most interesting film that there's been about superheroes, and probably this is the reason why we still give M. Night Shyamalan a pass and hope that he's going to go on to make another great movie. But this was quite an exceptional one, starring Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, and again, great visual style on this one. This was an excellent achievement for Eduardo Serra. I'm sure many people have this film in their collection. But let me know your thoughts about any of the films there of Eduardo Serra. So I think he's definitely a cinematographer that should appeal to all kinds of movie enthusiasts. The fact that he worked with Patrice Leconte, Claude Chabrol, but then also a real mixture there of low-budget British movies and some big Hollywood ones as well. So let me know your thoughts and comments. Thanks very much for joining me on this video. All the best to you. Bye-bye.